to healthcare workers of every type.
Shut up, healthcare workers. Hello, everyone. My name is Nopeta, and I write games for fun. So what are we doing today? But we're doing something a little bit different. Well, actually, it's something that's fairly common at this point, which is just me going to be talking to myself philosophically about things. Now, as you can see here, we're not working on Soldat Sans Identité because I am done with it. Soldat Sans Identité is mechanically sound, it works, and generally, at this point, it literally was just setting writing, and that's not very interesting to watch. Well, none of this is actually interesting to watch. I'm not going to kid myself when I say that. Nothing about this is interesting, but I think it's interesting. And having me sit here and not talk mechanics or anything like that, but simply just ranting to myself about the nature of alt history versus the cyberpunk future, not very exciting. So what are we doing today? As you see here, we are in the main hub of the SPRUG workshop here, our Google Drive. And by the title of the stream, you can kind of see we're going to be taking stock and discussing what the future holds for us. Now, the future for the SPRUG workshop is, judging by the end of days happening outside again, is looking fairly bright. But what do we plan on doing exactly? I just shut off the music because I'm a moron. Let me get my funky tunes back up. There we go. The Victoria 2 soundtrack, in case you haven't realized yet. Very good soundtrack. But what do we plan on doing? Well, we have a few ideas in the works, and we also have a few ideas that aren't quite going. But let's take stock of what we've done and what the future holds for us. So, looking here, we see everything, all our various games that we have worked on, we have seen, we've had fun with, and if they are... Turn down the music so I don't deafen myself. They're in green, that means they have been finished. And if they are gray, that means I haven't worked on them on stream. And if they are red, that means they probably won't be getting worked on anytime soon. Or they are non-stream games, kind of just a little fun one-off projects. So, Blood, Coin, and Steel, I've been getting actually quite a bit of things for that for some reason. I don't know, I got a random request for it today, which was kind of odd, but hey. God bless my alcoholism. So, we have Fate, Lonely Dance, Feast of Legend, Clapback. All those games are old ones that we did before the second wave of SPRUG Workshop stuff and things. So, Fist of Chaos. Let's see, how big was Fist of Chaos? I'm going to open up my handy-dandy little notepad document here. We're going to record how much has been written. So, Fists of Chaos, maybe that's a little bit too big. We'll go with 26. Fist of Chaos, and we've had 7,000. Hello, phone, how are you? With 7,464 words, or 39 pages. I think Fists came out pretty okay. Always one of those games where you wish you can always do a little bit more with. I think in the future, this is almost like you can almost argue this is a planning for the future stream as well. Is I'm going to have to write styles in a little bit more and clean combat up. Combat works at a fundamental level. But I've had the people I've shown that to said combat is very complex. And if you aren't really paying attention to it, it's very easy to screw up and have things go wrong and problems. That's okay. You know, crunchy games have their place in the world, but I like to make my games are easy to play, you could say. A little less complex than they really should be. So if I can just clean that up eventually, one of these days, probably soon. Soon, TM. Okay, so Fist of Chaos, that's really all, and that and more styles. Honestly, I think that's my biggest problem with this, is that I didn't really actually bring that much in just because I was dying internally by the end of it. But I think it works. That's the weird thing about this game, is that it works if you take it and, like, on a purely philosophical, a purely numbers based, and a purely white room scenario, it works. The problem is, kind of in play, things turn out a little bit slower than I was hoping for, so I'm going to have to remajigger and redo things there, but overall, I think it works. One guy said he was actually going to do various different styles, including like Armstrong's style from Lisa the Painful. Painful, yeah. But I never heard back from him, and that's kind of sad, because Lisa's a great fucking game. Alright, so let's keep going. Second wave stuff. These are all kind of first wave fixer up. I got some requests for Granbelm in the mecha thread, and I will always pitch Granbelm as it's more magical girl than mecha show, but I still enjoyed it. Not great Japanime, but a fun one. High Speed Death Machine, I didn't actually write on stream, but I needed to make this game for myself. It's just a very fast game. Hell, I mean, for God's sakes, one of the attributes is literally called shouting, and it's about shouting at someone, and I think it works fairly well. It's janky. I think the biggest problem with it is zones, and it being kind of a fundamentally it's a solo game. It's a game designed for two people to play, one GM, one to kill, fight, die in. And my original goal was to actually create a automated play machine for it, kind of a Chinese knockoff Mythic GM emulator, but that never quite worked. Every time I looked at it, it just broke, and if it didn't break, it just didn't work the way I wanted to. I tried using cards, I tried looking up stuff, but and all these other GM emulators are like these massive fucking things. I didn't really want that. So again, because I'm doing the Chinese knockoff version, obviously, so. But overall, I don't know why you're... Oh, please stop that. Only 18 pages. It's not exactly an extensive game, but it wasn't really supposed to be. It's supposed to be more of a go fast, kill, fight, die. High Speed Death Machine. 3, 4, 4, 8, and 18 pages. I did actually have an interesting conversation it would be what, 2-3 weeks back. I discussed this probably with a previous stream, but I discussed with Pullman of Pullman fame. He is a game design guy who talks with indie guys. He's on the GDG, and we had a fairly long discussion about laser focused games versus toolbox games, where a game that's laser focused does one thing very well but doesn't really do anything else, where a game that's a toolbox can kind of accommodate multiple things. And I've been noticing I'm drifting toward toolboxes recently, with a couple other games I've been writing, kind of that more toolboxy, kind of addressing multiple things with inside of a single game. So for this next game I do plan on making, I want to make it very specific. I want to make it laser focus it down and make it a very tailored experience, you could say. I mean, like, you're going to be playing this very distinct idea and not much else. I have a few ideas. They'll be discussing that later, but I just wanted to go through that concept. Let's see. Oh, Iron Caskets. Iron Caskets is a game that kind of fell into that laser-focused variety, and I like it personally. I think it's Probably one of my better works. That was one I had a lot of fun writing Iron Caskets. That was right before my slight hiatus there for a while where I just got completely burnt out on living. But I enjoyed it quite a bit. It had a lot of unique features in it, a lot of unique ideas, and actually a lot of fun writing it because I like military stuff personally. It's always interesting. That's always kind of an odd thing to address in a lot of games. Is like, how do you make a military game fun? Because like players hate following orders or players hate doing military things. So kind of working that into the mechanics, working that in with everything was a challenge I enjoyed. Monster Girl Adventures obviously exists. I'll be discussing this one later. Discussing you later. Project Inchling. Inchling turned out to be a toolbox game where I didn't really intend to it to be, but I still enjoyed some of the ideas I put into it. The life path system and actually the various health bars I think actually worked really well, and I actually really like the idea of the mechanic I put in. The OVA style, I think that's the correct term. That's how I would word it, because that's where I stole it from. You'll roll a bunch of dice and you pretty much take whatever matching. I think that works really well, and I might be incorporating that in later games. Maybe not this next one, depending on how I want to do it, but I like the idea. I think Inchling's biggest problem, outside the name, which the name is terrible, and I still need to fix it, but no one has ever given me any suggestions, so if you have any suggestions, feel free to hit me up. But I feel its biggest issue is that it needs to be ran to get the full experience. Usually I'm not one that says like, well, the game master has to make the game work. This is very much one of those situations where the game master makes the game sing. I've given the notes, I've given everything, but the game master really needs to make this kind of game work. And I usually don't like doing that because I like giving the game master, the players, a book that says you can run any game you want in this. Follow the rules, and you'll get the themes, you'll get the ideas. Always put in your own personality by here. This game is very much the game master has to be above average, I'd say. Now, mind you, I'm not saying like I'm this masterclass of fucking GMing, but I would like to believe I'm decent at it, because you can't just make this a combat game. A lot of my games come from a lot more fighty games, so making this was actually kind of difficult to me, because how do you balance a game that you're not supposed to fight? Because fighting is difficult. You want enemies to be scary, you want them to be intimidating, and you want combat to be horrific. So how do you incorporate all those aspects into a game properly? And the game master would be the one to have to make it. You can make those slowly escalating threats and all that, but that's not how it makes it sing. Pretty much, linking back to the music analogy, I have effectively put in the margins, just smash the keyboard for a while and make your own. It's the random solo in the fucking margins. But so if I do go back to this, I think cleaning it up will be important. One, cleaning will be incredibly important, and kind of giving it a little bit more oomph. Also, that's my fingernail clippers. I was clipping those before I went on stream. Oh god, I thought I said 51,000 fucking words. I'm like, good god, I don't remember writing that much. Project Inchling, 9,056. At 48 pages. It is one of the meatier games I've written in the second wave. And Project Tactics, my darling. I really like Project Tactics. this was just a really fun game to write. There's a lot of ideas, mostly because I think with this game I was so passionate about the material I was basing it off of that I got a little bit more into it than I think I should have. And I spent so much time trying to make it exactly the way I wanted it. And that's admirable in its own way, I guess. I think Tactic's biggest issues are twofold. I think akin to Fists of Chaos, I think there's a lot of little things that I added that can either be simplified down, cut down, or just kind of merged together. And Magic just needs an entire fucking rewrite. But Magic in any game is a pain in the ass, and if anyone tells you differently, yell at them, slap them, and call them a little bitch because they don't know what they're talking about. But overall, I doing my best on this one. I think I enjoyed this. I enjoyed writing this game immensely, and it looks like this is actually my longest game so far of the second wave, with 14,881 words and 94 pages. Whew. Not only 3,000 pages, only 3,000 words more than in Caskets, but I'm not too surprised. These kind of hyper-focused games I end up writing tend to be a lot longer, and this one just has so much stuff in it. A lot of optional things, a lot of just little side notes, where it's impossible for me to... If it didn't end up being this giant mess, I'd be surprised. Soldat Sans Identité. As discussed before, Soldat Sans Identité started out as like, I want to do this really hyper-focused game, and it kind of evolved from there into more of a toolbox game. Like, it does its one thing very well, but someone pointed out, I posted it in a thread about Metal Gear Rising. Someone said, like, this is a great Metal Gear Rising game. It's just like, I didn't intend for it to be. I didn't really, like, think about it that way when I was writing it, ironically enough, and I know that sounds ridiculous, being like, how didn't you? I honestly forgot about Metal Gear Rising. And it just clicked that way, and suddenly it works for that, and then, like, the Deus Ex, it works for Deus Ex stuff, it works for this kind of specific subgenre of cyberpunk that's hard to really nail. The more of the upper end of cyberpunk, instead of, you know, high-tech low-lives, it's super high-tech dumbass, high-tech high-lives, and everyone, you're kind of on the upper echelons of society, but that's the entire point. But I enjoyed writing it, and I think if I were to come back to it, I would take a step back, remajigger some things, rewrite some things. I think the core thing what I would do is have to just write a massive setting book for it. I decided not to put in the settings, as I discussed, as it would just take a lot of time and just a lot of brain power that was better spent elsewhere doing other things, like literally anything else, and masturbating, I guess. But I love this song. But I think adding, again, the setting books to really make this game sing would be needed. And hell, I might even take some of the ideas I have from Metal Gear Mead, an old game that I wrote using an old system, and incorporate it into it. Or I might just take that as its own thing, depending on how I feel, on what I feel like. But I think it really works for Soldat Sans Identité. So if I do come back to it, that's probably what I'll do, is make like a dedicated like Metal Gear section, because I can do that, and no one can really stop me about playing 3 to 5 Raidens. But overall, I enjoyed it. I think its toolbox like nature kind of, I feel, hampered it in some ways. 12,021. That's 68 pages. 69, the meme number. Actually, let's be honest, we don't want the notes on there. 67. 958. So that's something identité, and that's it really. Those are all kind of the second wave games I've done. I've enjoyed all of them. So let's see. Actually, let's see. We've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. So let's do some math, everyone. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask as well. I'm always open for questions and answers, and there's a reason I put the Q&A thing on here. Or maybe you're just a very suspiciously good-looking bot, who knows? I don't judge you, Skynet. 9056 14881 and 11958 equals 58,000 words and 20 words, and for a total of 39, 18, 57, 48, 94, 67, 323 pages. So I'm going to put oof.jpg here. But that's kind of our summary of what we've done so far. Next I'm going to go over some of the gray projects here, otherwise known as games that aren't quite going places yet, but I plan on doing something with them. So let's start with, you'll be regular, Notepad Exalted. The Exalted Litany of Creation. Weirdly enough, I've been getting a lot of conversations about this. People have been talking about it. People have been wanting something of it. Possibly due to 3rd edition's kind of waning popularity. Maybe due to 2nd edition's loved nature and 3rd edition's fucking up of it. Or maybe they just want to play Exalted without any of the Exalted rules behind it. And that's kind of the issue there. I am of two minds with Litany of Creation. Always have been, always will. On one hand, I really, really want to get this kind of game right. Because I like Exalted. But Exalted's biggest problem, and I've addressed this before when talking about this game, but it's, you need to make Exalted first. It's, ironically enough, you can't address, I can't address it like I would a toolbox game. I have to almost do everything from the get-go, almost, to address it, to make it the way it needs to be, to just have everything the way I want it. But I also want it simple enough where normal people can play it, but also with enough stuff in there that it's confusing to think about. But it's one of those games as well that I can get everything except one part, kind of the essential piece of the puzzle, unfortunately. And I can't nail charms. That's the hardest part of this. Like, I can rewrite the entire game anytime I feel like, but I don't know how to do charms right. Because charms are always a weird aspect of Exalted, and they always will be, as they are... On one hand, they're a solid part of the world. They're important. They have meaning. They have context. They are a thing inside of the world that is known. but they're also not. Like, that's the very odd part with charms, is that, I could have the flying monkey king charm, and but like in world I'm using the flying monkey king charm, but in the world I'm also just doing an ability that looks like the flying monkey king charm, so it's like this weird back and forth with it that it's hard to get exactly the way I want. The method I used in this one was more akin to Godbound, and making charms a lot more abstract. I don't think that was the right option, to be honest. And I might ask Exalted General if they have any opinions on the matter. And what I'll effectively do is, like, if you were to write a homebrew game, and house, pretty much it'd be a three-pronged question, like how swore are you to Exalted's base system and ideas? If you had to do charms differently, how would you do them? And various other like little questions like that, because I want the game to feel like Exalted. That's the important part. Regardless of anything else, the game must feel like Exalted, and that's what it doesn't at the moment. And that's my biggest problem with it, is that the game doesn't feel like Exalted. It feels like a game with an Exalted skin on it, but doesn't click like it, doesn't feel like it, and it needs to feel like it or it doesn't work. It's the great value Chinese knockoff brand of Exalted, and that's not good. I don't need that. But again, there's a lot of ideas that I like behind it, but it just doesn't click well. It's not working the way I want it to. And I just take a bunch of things from other games. I think that's kind of like my biggest issue as well. Like, I would need to rewrite this game entirely, I feel. And so that might be what I have to do. You know what? So let's move on. So we're all... Okay, I'm going to address this one now. I've addressed this before more than once. But this is Racial Holy War. Moon Man Edition. A meme game. Made for meme reasons. For no other reason other than a joke. As you can see, I had a noble fan who wanted to edit things. I don't know how he could, because technically you shouldn't be able to, but alas. But what I was thinking about doing was arguably going fully down the memetronics Rex of it, taking it and going fully ham on it, making it the biggest meme, the ultimate final meme, ultimate meme works, because it would be amusing, and I'm an asshole like that. Sexy men posing dramatically. This should be Platinum Disco Inferno, right? No, this is Platinum Disco Inferno. So, this is my JoJo game. Another game of very hyper-focused. And I did run a full campaign using this system, and I think it worked pretty well. I think I had some issues with it, just getting everything to click properly, but overall I think the ideas behind it worked. I just need to refix, redo, edit, and change things, as there's a lot of ideas behind this game, that are odd. But the hardest part is, again, stands and Haman and doing everything like that. That's the hardest part, is getting it to work properly. That's why I've been kind of avoiding it, just because I know doing that, it will make my head explode. Like, for lack of a better word, it's going to make me want to kill myself. Yeah, you see, towns, attributes have various things. Like, I might change it. If I were to change this kind of fundamentally speaking, I would probably use Project Inchling system, the OVA style, just because you could do some things with stands, integrated, various stands, various abilities, like there. It's a lot of ideas there, so I'm actually going to put sexy men posing dramatically, and it's an engine chain. Let's actually do engine change question mark. Table Talk Online. Hello, Table Talk Online. Another white whale that ran a campaign and it floundered badly because of life. But as you can see, there's a lot of things here. And some of them worked, some of them did not work. I think that the biggest problem behind this game ultimately came down to there being a lot of options, and there were good options and there were bad options, very clearly. And I also ran into I don't even know the proper way of wording this. There became a lot of options in the game, and I don't know again how to word this properly, but there was the fun option, or the safe option. The fun option was doing cool things and really using the systems as they intended. The safe option was using the systems to maximize your benefits. Because you got more out of being safe than if you did for doing crazy wacky things, which I wanted to. So that kind of came that double-sided issue, and I've been wondering how to fix it for a while now, so later on I might do another fix project on it just to make it, and I might double down on it. I might honestly double down and say this is going to be the Isekai tabletop game. This isn't going to be a fantasy RPG game, fantasy toolbox RPG. This is a game dedicated to being an Isekai protagonist and going big or going home, about being reborn in another world, about having the Adventurers Guild, about having all these weird things go on, and having these video game mechanics in a non-video game setting. And that's kind of the thing I want to do. Like, your level is a known entity, a known thing. Rules for generating trucks during character creation. That's kind of the issue I ran into this game. Is I wrote it out because my friends said, we want an isekai game. We want an isekai game because they're all weebs. So I'm like, all right, I can do that. And I kind of modeled it off of JRPGs and mostly SRS, a standard roleplay system in Japan. And I didn't dedicate to the isekai concept. I think that was my biggest issue. And honestly, if I were to dedicate myself to it, this would be a pretty fundamental change in the idea of the game. That would probably be like the first chapter, how character creation. That would be the title of it, being like how I got hit by a truck. It's you know, and pretty much you have to select in your isekai, then you select your class, and you kind of have to work those two things together. So that would be kind of the joke there, and just kind of double down, as I repeatedly said, because I am intoxicated at this point, as I've been drinking excessively go-go alcoholism. But that's the idea there. Other weird little things about this game, there was guaranteed damage. You didn't have to roll to hit a bunch of times. Magic was a little freeform, but also not freeform. It was just a lot of weird decisions in this game I made. This was an earlier one, too, unfortunately. So, I have been neglecting fixing good old Table Talk Online. Let's see what other games. Oof. Oof. Let's see, table. Let's see. Oh, yes, the Notepad tabletop universe, otherwise known as Notepad Anatranzerite. For all the projects? No, this is the second wave projects. If I were to do every single project... yeah, these are all the various projects. These have been done probably within the last 3 months. And 3 months, yeah, about more like two or 3 months. If I were to tally up everything, I actually did one day. I just got bored and tallied up. This is easy triple. Easy. I accidentally clicked Steam as well, so Steam is having a complete shit fit today. But the one thing to always note is that Blood, Coin, and Steel is a massive goddamn game that has just so many rules and so many expansion books that kind of tying everything together in that regard is already a massive. Yeah, this right here is about the word count of jest Blood, Coin, and Steel, not everything else. So if I were to do legitimately everything, I would, if I were being conservative, 90,000 about. And this would be an easy 500. So, yay. Let's see. So, good old superheroes. Superheroes suck. Because no one agrees how to do them properly. Because you have Mutant and Masterminds on one hand, which Mutant Masterminds gives you a giant toolbox, and it's D20, and you get 5 million options to do everything you want in it. But then you get games like Masks, which are powered by the apocalypse, really rules light, but it also gets the theme. But they both do the theme perfectly. I didn't know what I was doing. I'll be honest with you. I had an idea, I had the concept, and it didn't work. It's kind of a mess of a game. And I've still been debating with myself. It's been, God, you see up there actually October 21st, 2019 is when I last edited this. I've been debating since then pretty much of how to make this work. As half of me wants to double down, being this and say, we're superheroes now, and Let's go kill the guerrilla commander as he's controlling his mind-controlled simian army to kill us all. Or stop Commander Krieger from unleashing his internet gas all over the world. Other half of me wants to go the Dark Knight route and be gritty superhero, street side, punch, rage. But they are also strangely mutually exclusive of how I would do them. It's also not mutually exclusive, and it's maddening. It's truly maddening. Because the weird part is that I know there's this click somewhere. There's this thing that is what I want. It's the superhero game of my dreams that isn't quite touched on yet. It doesn't quite have its niche. And that's what I'm looking for. But I haven't quite found it yet to do exactly what I want. So, as of right now, it's kind of on the back burner. Like the deep back burner where, you lost that chicken nugget one night and it's kind of black and scary now. That back burner. You don't talk about it. The McDonald's back burner. But the bad McDonald's on the corner that you don't go to because people there, do meth. I want to know how to fix this game. But I haven't found anything to really give me the spark needed. I don't know, I may find it. I may find the thing that I'm looking for, but I don't know it. I don't know where it is, I don't know how to find it. That is frustrating. It's actually... I think every designer has been in that situation before, I guess, where they are trying to find the perfect note for it. See, this is actually this is a 20. Yeah, you kind of even see that's all over the place on how I do things. Yeah, you can tell I'm really dedicated to it because I have the expansions, but I have no expansions. How do I know this needs to be fixed? There's a lot of things in this game that I put in because I needed it. Well, of course, there has to be the gadgetry skill. Well, obviously. And there has to be the power skill, because, well, duh, that makes complete sense. This was during kind of that first... This was created during the first wave, where I took a lot of ideas and kind of slapped them together and said it works, and it's a game. And you also see, like, this was all taken from Fate Lonely Dance without any of the context behind it. It just is just like, well, here's powers, and it just works, right? Well, of course. There's a lot of things in here that are hand-waved, that are working for it. Like, do I actually even have a system in place for that? I know yeah, it's... It's an attribute D6 system. Like, I don't even know how, like, this system doesn't work. That's the problem. There's a lot of numbers and a lot of things that aren't... Nothing clicks together is my biggest issue and how I know it needs to be fixed. Because you have, like, oh, here's this dangerous wound section I took exclusively from... Not Fate. Where was it? I know it. JoJo, yeah. I took this from JoJo. I took, like, this entire section from standard issue science fiction. I wrote this, but this is literally the entire combat section. It's 3 pages. Yeah, it's like straight superheroic battle. The character with the highest physical plus relevant power plus perk, skill, or gadget goes first. It's like, it's a very messy game. And I've learned what to do and what not to do. And this is everything that you shouldn't be doing. Ew, what is this? Wow. Well, that's kind of the issue. It's the gameplay that doesn't work. I think if I were to bring in a video game comparison, it would be like, God, what would it be? That'd be a good example. Oh yeah. It would be like if XCOM had a very in-depth RPG element to it. And I mean really in-depth, where you really want to nurture every single character to do everything you exactly want them to do. And then they still die horrifically, and you have to build them all up from the ground up again, repeatedly. The mechanics say one thing. The intent wants another. The situations are a completely third thing. So it's kind of that weird... if 2 work together, the third kind of works on itself, but they're all separate, and it's A, B, and C, and none of them are communicating properly. And I need them all to work, snap together properly, because none of them quite are, which is the biggest problem. And it's not really creating the situations that I want either, because on one hand, you have, like, the super heroic people, and on the other hand, you have, like, these, like, Batman people, and it's like, okay, how does Batman and Stardust, Stardust work, the Super Wizard work together? They don't. Stardust just clicks his fingers and wins. Batman actually has to think about things. So you actually have this kind of weird situation between all the various characters and various ideas behind it that just needs to take a step back, look at it, analyze it, change things that need changing in one place, fix things that need to get fixed in another place, and smack it repeatedly with a hammer. Let's see. And the name's terrible anyway. Also, when I was obsessed with D6s, like there's no other system other than just mass D6s, so need to tweakify that a little bit. Let's see, what else? What's even in here? Oh, yeah. My various notes and things for people. And I'll reveal this to the internet public, otherwise known as just you. This is Tunnels and Goblins. Tunnels and Goblins was an interesting idea. It started out as a thread saying, how do we fix D&D TG? And everyone started arguing, everyone started doing things. So as an anonymous user, I posted it out there, this document, and said, you know what? Give me ideas. No, just put it on there. I didn't even reveal myself as Notepad Anon. No names or nothing. I just say key rules for orderly conduct, didn't approve anything, didn't deny anything. And let the masses do what they think is best. It was an interesting experiment, as we ended up with some interesting ideas in general of like what's essential for the D&D experience. You know, you have your ranges of stats, you know, what the combination of Clash of Wrath defines character advancement to hit with AC, the Vancian or Vacian magic system, And everyone was like, oh, the alignment system's not essential. Just scrap the entire alignment system. And then you had some, oh, well, we want classes as idea, class kits, and from like very second edition ideas. And then people was like, oh, we want to combine to hit and with damage. Armor is DR and Shadow the Demon Lord, after Destiny concepts. And then this guy posted like this massive thing on how to do more versatile D&D and a lot of optional things, which I thought was very fascinating. This was a fascinating thing to just witness grow, as you get to see what people consider sacred cows. I got to see what people consider things that aren't valuable, things that people consider are incredibly valuable, and the various natures of the nature of man. It's a miserable pile of secrets. One of the interesting things is that, well, there actually was surprisingly little trolling in here. One person deleted the document once. I reverted that. But overall, there's actually not that many memes going through out of it. Yeah, you have the class ideas of like local lord and man-at-arms in full harness. But overall, it actually became fairly fascinating to kind of see what people enjoy or don't enjoy. And the concept of tunnels and goblins being the idealized D&D is interesting thing, mostly because game designers always end up viewing D&D as this evil force of nature that's impossible to deal with. It's the white whale, and they're all Ahabs trying to kill the damn thing. And to a degree it is. I won't lie. There always comes a point when you're designing a game, and I usually give this as any inspiration for doomers who are like, no one will ever buy my game and no one ever cares. Wow. There comes a point where you have to admit that D&D is the big boy for a reason. Marketing, money, 100,000 different things. But the fact that someone took time out of their day, took a moment of their willpower, their energy, their very fundamental being, to sit down and write something else, it's admirable. But that's what needs to be done, and that's why I like to encourage homebrew content as much as I do, is because if you don't, you admit that D&D is this unbreakable, unbeatable monster, and we should play nothing other than D&D and its derivatives. And it's not, though. Because for all we know, for all we love and hate about it, the fact that it exists justifies our own existence. We write because we feel like it, because we can do better. And this thread was interesting because it gave people the idea that there was ideas, and people wanted to really explore those ideas to find their idealized D&D, the thing that they all like, obviously, but want to fix, make better, do something else with. I will admit the thread did devolve quickly into well, no, 3.5 was best. No, 5th edition is best. No, 4th edition is best. Blah, 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 blah. But in between all the shitposting, there was actually quite a bit of good discussion about why things became the way they are. Why did, we drop Thaco to hit armor class 0? Or why did we drop the idea of non-invasion? Why is non-invasion magic not the thing? Like, why did the warlock come to be? Versus why did why are tieflings a major race but Azamir aren't? And it became interesting because people kind of admitted being this, like, well, it was popular. It was it wasn't driven by a creative goal, really. It was driven by that's what people wanted, and you give what the people what they want because it's a business. And some of the discussions that didn't make it into the document, unfortunately, were very interesting regarding what do you do with that, and mostly because there's been a very large debate on TG about, quote, freak shit, end quote, races. Because that's one of D&D's arguably biggest selling points at this point, is that you can play anything you really want. You want to play a turtle? Nothing's going to stop you from playing a turtle. You want to play a bugbear? No, furbolg, that's it, furbolg. You can play a furbolg. Completely justifiable. There's races for it, there's numbers. Tiefling, otherwise known as the pre-baked story idea, there you go. It's all yours. While you got some games like OSRs that don't do that. Some people like that, but some people also don't like the very human-centric nature of it. So it's an interesting debate of what people focused on versus what they didn't focus on. And if I ever do get bored one day, I may go through this and write Tunnels and Goblins for myself more than anything. Write the world's greatest D&D hack that'll never go anywhere. If only as a small challenge to myself. That's some good stuff. Let's see. That's it. I guess I can go with some of the quieter games that I'd never really touched on. Oh, hi. Hello, this is my disgusting main folder of my drive. Everyone, please gag. I know I do, and I look at it, I've just been lazy not fixing it. I ended up in a 24-hour RPG challenge that unfortunately died before I got to post this, and I ended up with the words, nothingness, black markets, and machinery. So I wrote Rainbow Six Deniable Ops. And overall, it became kind of a mashup of a few different games I had. I would say it's alright. Not good, not bad. If I had more time, I would probably do more with it, but I kind of I ran out of creative juices, and the thread died, so I kind of stopped it. I might come back to it later, I might not. And then we have the Doom skirmish game. This is right when Doom Eternal came out. Everyone's just like, we need to make game. And I wrote it. This is actually my first foray into a war game, actually. Which sucks. Fun fact. This is a pain in the ass, and I don't get how people do this. If I ever do get bored, I might take the bones of this and make my own war game, just to say I did, more than anything. And my core idea is that, A, you wouldn't really be able to play this very well in person. That's kind of... I like to write everything for the idea of in person, but this game was hard because of how it was asymmetrical. The UAC, the human side, they had a certain number of troops, but their big thing was, A, all their forces are out at the beginning. They have clear objectives, and if they complete their objectives, they win. But they have fewer troops, fewer things to kind of work with, but each of their abilities are bigger and a little bit more impressive. They are able to adapt. Demon forces, on the other hand, do not. Demon forces are effectively, they have to summon all of their troops in at certain locations, and then they move them from there. They are very, very situational, very focused on how they handle things. But each of the various demonic forces had their benefits and had their drawbacks. Zombies had to be activated, and all your zombies moved. or oh, you activate your hellhounds, all your hellhounds move, or all your imps move, or all your commandos move. And that was kind of the back and forth on it. Is the demons could overwhelm people, and that was the idea. The demons had to kill everyone. They had one objective. But a smart player can shred the average, part of the demon forces. But so you had to keep summoning bigger ones. But it's like, oh, well, I want to summon a big guy. Well, that costs a lot of resources to do. So do you want to save up for big guys who can do a lot of damage and have a lot of abilities, or do you want to just spam them out? So it's kind of that back and forth strategy of trying to predict, like, okay, human forces have chain guns, automatic rifles. They're going to shred through my shitties. So I need to get big guys out. And once I get my big guys out, they're moving faster, doing more damage. And someone brought a rocket launcher to the fight, and suddenly my big guys are getting shredded in half. How do I deal with this? But overwhelming even a single guard suddenly, a single trooper suddenly makes you at a better position. You can replace all your losses. They can't. So that was kind of my idea there. I might make it its own game one day. Let's see. So, and let's go to our final section, what I've been waiting on. This is originally called Shakespeare, the role-playing game. Shakespeare, the role-playing game was about, you guessed it, playing a Shakespeare play. And making it as, quote, dramatic as physically possible. And that was the point. The point was to make it drama at its finest. Everything is drama. And in case you're just like, oh, well, let's ease back on the drama there. No, more drama. You technically die in one hit from anything, but you have to burn plot power to pretty much how essential you are to the plot. And I used a Pendragon-like system. Tragic, comedy, humor, sobriety, beauty, ugly, sanity, insanity, faith, and fate. And it turned out pretty okay. I enjoyed it. This was actually the second earliest game I wrote that is still recorded. I wrote this back in high school. We were reading Hamlet and Macbeth and all that, and I wrote it kind of on a whim, just to tell my teacher I could. And so I've been debating on using this for a game set in the 18th century called Morons with Pedigrees, because I watched a show called The Great, starring Elle Fanning, which was about Catherine the Great's coup and her kind of ascent to power. It was interesting just because there was a lot of situations there that I enjoyed, and there was drama, there was violence, there were dramatic people doing dramatic things for dramatic reasons, and isn't that the hallmark of a good role-playing game? So I have the idea, have the concept, have everything to click together with it. It just doesn't feel like clicking together, and I just need to get some more pieces set up to make it work, I think. That's kind of my biggest issue with that at this time, at this moment. That's my biggest issue with Morons with Pedigrees. I was debating on using a kind of a combination of Barbarians of Lemuria plus another game. Actually, if I use that might work. Actually, no. Pretty much the idea of Barbarians of Lemuria stealing its career system. I think Barbarians of Lemuria is a fantastic game that everyone should play because it's arguably amazing. But its career system I always enjoyed because instead of having skills per se, less like riding, jumping, or whatever, you have careers. Which say, I am a soldier. So if you're a soldier, obviously you're going to be better at soldiering. You're going to be better at fighting in some capacities. You're going to know tactics. You're going to know how to survive in the wild. You're going to know all these things. But if you're a hunter, for example, you're better at knowing things about the wild. You can trap things. You can track things. You're more in tune with nature. But if you're a courtesan, you're better at dealing with people. You're a little bit more sly. You can get into places you shouldn't. And that's how you do your skills, and it's kind of ranked there. But the game is very simplistic. But simple is good. Sometimes. Don't get me wrong, sometimes complexity is what you need. But simplicity is also a beautiful thing. And BOL arguably is the hallmark of beautiful simplicity. I was debating on using the career system from that plus another system to represent the humors. 18th century, that was still a very popular thing. Is, oh, well, you're high in yellow bile. Stop trying to get into a fight real fast. Or, ooh, you're in the blood right now. Get some leeches on you before you hurt someone, you idiot. Or, ooh, he's filled with black bile. Yeah, no, eat some fruits and try to clear all that out of you right now because you're being a little melancholy. And kind of using the humors as your base attributes that you kind of want to fight against, yet simultaneously go with. So if you're high blood, and you're really passionate about things, you're very socially outgoing, you're also always kind of itching for a fight at some points, but you want to resist getting into a fight, well, suddenly you have to roll effectively against your humors. So you want to play with your character, but play against them at the same time to get to what you want. And I was debating on using Shakespeare for it. That's why I renamed it from Shakespeare the Role-Playing Game to Morons with Pedigrees, but I might have to make it its own independent system, just stealing aspects of it. Oh, goodness gracious. It's very late. But we are not quite done yet of me talking philosophically to myself. Let's go over things Notepad add-on wants to do. So, not much is updated in the long while. We have Project Eros, as always, the ERP game that doesn't need to exist, which I've kept debating with myself of how I want to do, on how I want to do it. Like, half of me wants to go just make Black Tokyo 2 Electric Boogaloo. The other half of me wants to actually make something decent and competent. Or maybe I'll just call Sex Cult Anna on there. And long story short, guy kept posting his like weird fan fiction, and have him help me. I still remember that. If you can find it, just look on the archives. It's insane. Doesn't speak English. The thing is Polish or something. But I would love to make it just A, to say I did, and B, to explore that community more. Because ERP, I've discussed this before, ERP is a really weird community. Because they play very odd games. Because you think something like, oh yeah, well, let's get sexy with each other. Oh yeah. You're like, we want to play something really light and fluffy. No, they're just like, let's play 3.5. Let's play Exalted. Let's play these like really overly crunchy systems for some reason. Like, it's just like, that's not what I expected at all. But that's what's popular for some reason. And they're not even games with like explicit, like, oh, here's the sex mechanic. No, not at all. It's like, huh. Interesting. So what if you build a game entirely around that idea? Secondly, we have Into the Badlands there. I liked Into the Badlands. It was a series. Kung Fu Southern Americana post-apocalyptic epic that fell miserably on its face second and third season. But the base pitches were so interesting, and it felt like this perfect setting to do cool things in. Because you had like clear, player characters and the Clippers. They were like bodyguard, samurai. Effectively, they were samurai. And you also had, but you also had people who weren't them. They also were good. You had gamblers because you could draw upon so many different genres and put characters in. Like, you could very easily have a party consisting of a post-apocalyptic samurai, a gambler, a ancient mystic monk, and a scrap dealer as a party. That's a legitimate party. that works. And, they're kung fu fighting because there are no guns in the Badlands, because guns are illegal. So it's very. You also have the kind of this more Bruce Lee-esque way of approach to things. It's very over the top, martial arts, still fairly grounded in some ways. I really enjoyed the setting and the ideas behind it. And the later seasons did display some of the bigger conflicts, the bigger wars and stuff, and how those look. And it was astounding, and I loved it. As it was brutal and deadly, and automatic crossbows make my pee-pee hard. And I love sniper crossbows, and they're awesome. And that was like the main range weapon, and I'm like, this is amazing. I love this, but it kept hurting me and making really bad decisions and making it about mystic magic bullshit. I honestly, if I were to make it, I would ignore all the mystic magic bullshit. Just ignore it, because it was dumb. Then we have Project Speed, which is effectively me remaking the F-Zero RPG from the 90s. There was a guy on TG, made about 5-6 threads over the course of about a month and a half, asking for, it started like, hey, is there a good racing RPG? Well, yeah, I use car lesbians, or, oh, hey, yeah, I use big old crab truckers. And then someone kept bringing up the F-Zero RPG. Then he started talking more about the F-Zero RPG. And no one really bit, because it's an older game. It's an odd game, don't get me wrong. And I became fascinated by it, because like Iron Caskets, there isn't really a racing game. You may say, well, that's insane. Of course there are racing games. Why don't you look at, Gaslands? And why don't you look at a very specific kind of modern initial D, let's spam Eurobeats, more focused on the racing rather than I have a machine gun strapped to the front of my car, go fuck yourself. And I was just like, how do you make that dramatic? How do you make that interesting? And it was hard to think about. So that's kind of a game that I would like to explore. It would be a very hyper-focused game, don't get me wrong. It would be, to be honest, it would probably end up wacky races more than F-Zero, but c'est la vie. Then we have the not copyrighted World of Darkness. People love World of Darkness. World of Darkness has been around for goddamn ever, it feels like. Very 90s, very indebted to the times, but the IPs, various IPs, vampire, werewolf, changeling, demon, they've been mistreated somewhat over the years. Mostly vampire. White Wolf got bought by Paradox, traded hands a bunch of times. Onyx Path publishes Requiem, and I think 20th edition Vampire, but then 5th edition Vampire came out and it was terrible. And it kind of like, everyone keeps arguing about, like, oh yeah, Mage. Everyone keeps arguing about, like, how do we make this work? Well, the game doesn't work. And what I would want to do effectively is make a game about things that go bump in the night and playing those, but I would probably even take in a different direction. While World of Darkness is like the masquerade's always there, the not copyrighted World of Darkness would probably have them a little bit more out front and center. It's like, yes, you're a vampire, but you also need to make rent this month. So that kind of that interesting conundrum, the duality would be an interesting thing. You're dealing with your humanity, you're also dealing with your more supernatural elements, is common in the White Wolf games, but also having to deal with the supernatural versus mundanity. Like, yeah, you're a vampire, badass super vampire. You're also terrible with women, and everyone thinks you smell like garlic because you're an asshole and no one likes you. It's like, cool. Or, hey, yeah, you're a ultra werewolf, and not only do you have to protect the world from evil monsters, you also have to make sure that your girlfriend doesn't leave you for that Chad over there, because he actually has a a well-paying job and you work in a trailer park. Damn it. Crap. The very ironically human stories is what my core idea would be. Very, very human in approach, but very supernatural, inhuman, arguably, in execution. Like, it is a dramatic story about, a pack of werewolves dealing with life, but also desperately trying to make sure they don't kill anyone. I might do that, I might do something different, but just kind of like the concept was there. Project Goblin. This was based off another series of threads on TG about monster heroes. Like, why can't I play a goblin? That was a popular thread. Like, I want to, but I want to play a goblin tribe, and everyone's like, no, that's kind of a dumb idea. Oh, and then everyone's like, well, why can't I play an Illithid, or why can't I play Bugbear, or why can't I play Hobgoblin? Blah 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 blah. That very the sometimes natural extent of the D&D problem. Everyone wants to play their special race. Why can't I play the other very specific special race that I want to play? Well, you can't because they're monsters and we don't have a stat block for them. Goblin was going to be a game very much based on that idea. And someone, the writer of Ad Finium, XYYZZ, various other end of the alphabet letters to get strung together. Ad Finium, nice guy. He proposed like wanting to be something almost like Paranoia in that way, and that kind of struck me as like, hey, yeah, no, it would be. So it would be kind of like fantasy Paranoia. You're expendable. You're going to die. But the idea is that since everyone's so similar, you're going to be replaced. And that's almost the pitch of it. Is like, yeah, how do a bunch of goblins get past the city's defenses? Well, we sneak in, obviously, and open the gate up. Well, you're going to get surrounded and probably butchered. But that's the point. You're going on these suicide missions because you, the individual goblin, don't matter. You're an expendable asset. You're something to be thrown away at your whim. And that's fine. Because at level 1, you get killed, you get mauled and eaten by wolves, and level 10, you get eaten by bigger wolves. But you have numbers. If I were to do this, it would almost be like every player is effectively playing a band of goblins that they kind of circle around, kind of end up replacing each other with. Again, the idea is there. It's in this noggin up here, but not much else. Oh, jeez. Let's see. We also have Project Cat-Y. In case you're wondering, yes, blame. I firmly blame my friend. She is a weeb, and she was like, well, this would be funny when I asked her that, 'cause she plays RPGs and stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? I can do it.
Hey, Pittsburgh. Help us make our streets safer.
I don't care.
So the people driving cars.
Stop that. Stop speaking ads. Why do you do this to me, ads? And my idea was effectively to say, oh, I'm going to clean up Catastrophe. And I posted it in a thread, and like 7 people were like, oh, I'm making Catastrophe too. And I'm like, I can't wake up. Wake me up inside. I can't wake up. Save me. And so I ended up having to kind of take a step back on that and try to decide if I want to do something different with it, if I want to just abandon it completely and just do something else. This is the same person who is like, I really want to try Necronica, and I'm like, oh no. So I might take Catastrophe and kind of just do my own thing with it, or do something else entirely. There was of course, like every hack I saw of Catastrophe in that thread was perfect. Like, it was everything that needed to be in that game. And I'm like, why? This is a bad joke. You hurt me, world. You hurt me. And then Project Dirt Block. I asked another friend, one of my group actually, who's a big meme lord, I realized, and hurts me physically in more ways than one. He said, when I asked him, okay, my friend, what RPG would you want to see? Man who plays RPGs with me. And he said in his usual voice, well, I want Minecraft. You know, I'm like, you want what? I'm like, Minecraft. I'm like, what do you mean by that? I mean, that's like, I want Minecraft as a tabletop RPG. And I wanted to shank him with the nearest stabbing implement. But unfortunately, he lives very far away from me, so I couldn't do that. And I'm like, all right. What do you have, like, an idea for that? He's like, no, you're going to figure that out. Our Terraria works too. I'm like, oh, okay. Get, knife coming out of sheaths, ready to stab repeatedly. I kind of took a step back and thought about it a little bit, and a few ideas came to me in my head. Because what is Minecraft at its core? Minecraft at its core is a game about wanting to build things. It's about constructing things, getting the resources to construct things, and progressing through this adventure. What is Terraria? A game about gathering resources to build more things, to gather more resources to build cooler things. I can work with that. Solid idea, simple concept. If anything, what I would probably base it most off of, it would be primarily based off of what's its name? Oh yeah, that cursed game. Minecraft Story Mode. If you've never heard of that, it's a Telltale game. It's a Telltale Minecraft game, nonetheless. While it's a Telltale game and all its flaws and glory, it did say some interesting things about the building. Mostly rapidly tap the button to build things. And I looked at it. I looked at it again. Did a little walk around it. Poked it. Looked at it some more. And I came to the conclusion that what they're doing, if you strip away everything, is you are rolling dice to build things. Isn't that exactly what you want to do? Why don't you just roll more dice to build more things quicker and build? And then I thought about it. What happened if you have an entire game where building is a central aspect? Where you as a character, you as a series of characters, that's your talent, that's your thing, is to build and to construct and to create things. And it's interesting because you have a natural loop. I want to build thing. I'm going to gather resources to build things so I can build things to gather more resources to build another thing. Alright. Combine it with the Minecraft village mechanics, with the new Terraria village mechanics, where you have clear people to care for, villagers, or more important NPCs that you want to build bigger houses for, so they, you guessed, give you more stuff. It could be an interesting game. Could be. Now, an interesting idea sometimes isn't always an interesting game. It could work. It could also blow up in my face dramatically and have everyone that I love and care about light up on fire, but who knows? That's half the appeal. Half the appeal is guesstimating, you could say, about sitting there, sitting back and saying, okay, how are you going to work? Are you doing it what you're supposed to, or are you breaking under the weight of its own ideas? So that's my ideas there. And then we have our 3 fixed projects, which White Whale, Holy Grail. And these are some pretty common ones that I've been meaning to work on. But overall, we've been doing quite a bit of stuff over the last few months. And most likely our next game will be Morons with Pedigrees. And most likely we'll have another design theory time to really get the ideas down of how to make it work. Because, fun fact, 18th century stuff, you don't talk about. It's just not a thing unless you're a goddamn pirate RPG. I don't want to play a pirate. I want to play a foppish nobleman with a really cool coat on, trying to not, drink himself to death and or die of super syphilis. That's interesting. I have an idea for that. There's tons of pirate stuff. Hell, I bought the Furry Pirates book, for God's sakes. Which, by the way, very fascinating read. Very odd. I bought it on a whim. I got it for $3. I had to get it. It was weird. Very detailed ship schematics. I'll give it that much. But pirates, that's addressed. There's tons of pirate games. But is there really a game about being an 18th century nobleman and role-playing a Jane Austen book outside of The Good Year, or whatever, The Good Life? Which is the Jane Austen RPG that is completely non-random, and you have to spend tokens to do things. And everyone looks like their face is trying to run away from their bodies. It's like, that's horrifying in a plethora of ways. Please stop. Interesting enough, I want to play foppish nobles and have like the key idea would be almost like a very extensive social system. My current idea is pretty much you'd have to base the game entirely around a single individual. A single character, player character or non-player character, that is kind of the central thing. And from there you build the web of relations, of friends, of enemies, of who wants to do who's having sex with who, who's married, who's not married, who wants to murder who, and that kind of entanglement of people and things and wanting to influence one another. Because one idea I had, I actually wrote this down in a notebook in the middle of the night, because I'm like, it's an idea, is who murdered this girl? And the players would be her best friend, who her connection is, I want to solve her murder. Well, obviously, I'm her best friend. But I'm also a woman, and I have very different social responsibilities than the men. And you also have her jaded lover, who she rejected. Is he the culprit? He's also a player character, and he's like, no, it's not me, but I need to clear my name, so I need to find who killed her. Oh, I need to find who killed her, maybe. Or maybe I did, who knows. But you also have his sister, who suspects that it can't possibly be him, but all the evidence points that it's him. So she wants to protect him, who's investigating this other girl's murder. But you also have the commandant, her uncle, the murdered girl's uncle, who is this old scraggly bastard who and he's sleeping with half the court. But he's also invested in this murder. He says he needs to solve it because this is his dear niece. And then you have all these different characters all interacting with each other. All based around the central character. This girl who is murdered. And I don't want to make it a strict toolbox. I want it to very much be like this is 18th century stuff. Because one thing I do plan on doing is there will be no health. There's no health bar. You have plot power. Like in Shakespeare. Why? Because getting shot with a musket ball is death. It is. You're gonna fucking die. And, someone brings out the musket and shoots you with it, and it hits you. if you don't instantly die from effectively having a shotgun slug embedded in your chest, you're going to get something tore off. And the idea is that characters they have a very finite time, and they want to kind of spend this inadvertent metacurrency. I don't usually like metacurrencies, but I digress. To advance the plot in their favor, but also kind of do other things or keep everyone in line. Like, that's my idea. That's the concept in my noggin. Now, making it work, completely different. And I've got step 3, 4, and 5. I don't have step 1 or 2. The attributes, the basic engine. That's not in place yet. So, I digress. Well, it's a little bit late now. I'm going to head off. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. I will most likely start the next project on Friday. Actually, yeah, no, on Friday. That'll be my hope. Today, Thursday, I'm doing some stuff with family, so I won't be able to really stream. But I'm hoping Friday is when I start everything. And depending on how things go, I want to get this game done by the end of July, hopefully. That's kind of my goal, just give myself a solid month. I'm trying to give myself goals and give myself like a solid, like, I want to do this time. And from there, after I get done with this new project, I might start working on one of these. Either one of the other personal projects I feel like doing, one of the Oh God Fix Me Pleases, or start on one of the fixed projects. If I do any of the fixed projects, it might be Kid World, because it seems interesting and stupid. Or it might be Abandon All Hope, I don't know yet. Or I might just leave it up to random chance and go to GDG and say, which one do you want me to work on? But thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Godspeed. Good luck, everyone.